A nigga like me, man, I love the game. I love the hustle, man. I be feeling like one of them ball-playing niggas, you know? Like Bird, or Magic, or something. Yeah, you know, a nigga got dough. A nigga could leave the league. But if I leave, the fans still gonna love me, man? I get love out here in Harlem, man. I done sold coke on these streets, man. Hash, weed, heroin. As long as niggas is feeling it, a nigga like me can hustle it. That's my gift in life, eh? You know? What? The fuck you laughing at, B?
You, man. Funny, man. You a hustling motherfucker, man. For real, baby. You fucking killing me, man.
Well, you know me, baby.
Now, I took the liberty of doing a little research, and first of all, I had to do this research because this is gonna kill this. This is gonna kill this whole idea of blacks being intellectually inferior right here. Number one, the nation of Dubai, or not nation, but the city known as Dubai, which resides in the or it is located in the United Arab Emirates. That is a nation where the average IQ is actually lower than African Americans. Our IQ is 85. The United Arab Emirates has an IQ, I think it was either lower or it was within 2 points or something. It's very close. But I'm gonna run down a list. In fact, not just Dubai, but Kuwait, Qatar. Those are nations that are very beautiful economically, very developed, very, look better than looks like Miami. I mean, we've all heard about Dubai and places like that. Those are people with lower IQs that develop those nations, with the islands that look like a crab or whatever it is. The way they got it sectioned, I don't know if it's a crab, but the islands that they developed in Dubai, those are actually, in shape. And then the Burj Khalifa, all of this is built in Dubai with people that have an average IQ lower than African Americans. Now let's go down the list. The nation of Indonesia has an average IQ just 2 points higher of 87. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use income in America, because that therein that's going to kind of give us the score of who's doing what. So we can really shut down a lot of these questioning as to average IQ. The average IQ of African Americans is this, and so that is why they're fucked up. This is gonna kill that shit. This is gonna kill all these that little dumb, stupid ass shit Stefan Molyneux did. He didn't do any damn research as it becomes to black productivity. When you start talking about productivity, you're really talking about, okay, how productive are you in an organization, within an organization or business? So we're gonna go based on individual income, because that is probably that in net worth, but net worth has a lot to do with, a lot of other different factors. So I'm gonna say, because when you go with net worth, it's 90% of whites, and that's not just education. That's just not. So we're gonna go with income, because when you got 1,000 year, you don't say 1,000, but you got a 300, 400 year head start, and you want to compare African Americans to whites, it just wouldn't be, wouldn't be fair. So let's look at, okay, apples to apples. Intelligence against intelligence, income against income. How do black people hold up, right? Because if you have chances are, how does this theory hold up? I mean, how if African Americans are only where they are based on that fucking number known as 85, then what should hold up is everybody in America that has that IQ should rate where they are. They should rate below African American. The average African American income I checked lately has went up, it's over 40 now on average. Now, and that was in the last check 2015, that's 3 years ago, 2.5 years, whatever. So let's look at that. Okay, Indonesia, average IQ of 87 in their country. In America, their average income is 61,000, literally 50% higher than the average African American, but they're only 2 points higher. So Okay, you might be like, well, they got a higher IQ, so that makes sense. Okay, let's see. All right. Let's see. Jamaicans have an average IQ of 71, literally 14 points lower. Yet they have an income of 50,000, which is literally 25% higher than African Americans. So, you know, well, you'll be like, oh, well, the Jamaicans like to work 3 or 4 jobs. That's just hard work. Wait a minute. I thought it was just IQ that explains everything. I mean, it has to. Okay. Trinidadians, people from Trinidad. Average IQ, the exact same as ours. Annual income, 55,000 on average. Okay. Laotian, people from Laos. Average IQ of 89, just 4 points higher, yet they have an average income of 53. People from Thailand have a lower IQ than blacks at 84 on average. They have an income of 53. Ghanaians, people from Ghana, they're literally 12 points lower, 73. Average income, 59,000. People from Turkey. Now, the reason I put Turkey is at 90. But I figure if a person has an IQ 5 points higher, that's not a big difference. Let's just keep it a buck. Many of the people that won the Nobel Peace Prize are on average IQ anywhere from 115, 120 on up to 200. So the range shouldn't make that much of a difference, at least a 5. Now, if you want to go above 10, okay, fine. We'll say 10 should make a hell of a difference. But then that stands to reason we're way ahead of a couple of people on this list, yet they're outperforming us. We're way ahead of them intellectually on average, right? And I know what you'll say, well, this is the best of the best. That's not always the case. 9 times out of 10, everybody that comes to America isn't coming to America as wealthy people and their family got a lot of money and they're the best of the best. A lot of these people come over here without shit. Just being honest. Go over, and if you live in the Atlanta area, there's an area called Buford Highway, and out here in this northern area, there are a lot of foreigners over here. These people aren't just wealthy when they get here. That's a lie. That's a lie. And see, the same people that'll turn around and say that blacks are intellectually inferior will then turn around and dog black people and say, well, look, these people are coming from foreign countries broke, and in 10 years they got this and they got that. So which is it? I'm gonna keep going down my little list. Turkey, average IQ of 90, like I said, 61,000. Filipinos have an IQ literally 1 point higher than ours. They have the 4th highest income in the country at $82,000 a year on average. Okay, Indians are 4 points lower than ours, right? Indians are the highest, and I've been telling y'all for years, they are the highest income people in this country at $101,300 a year. So, I mean, what's up with that? People from Lebanon, 3 points lower than ours, $75,000 at an 82 IQ. People from Sri Lanka, 6 points lower than ours, $73,000 a year. Iranians, 1 point lower than ours, $72,000 a year. People from Egypt, 4 points lower than ours on average IQ, 61,000. So, I mean, cause see, the people like Stefan Molyneux and these people say that the crime and the way that black people, why they are where they are is because of their IQ. But see, what you have to do is learn how to do and read data. Numbers can lie, people. Numbers can lie. Because, and look, I could go down the list. There are tons of people. I guarantee you, if I do some research, because some of those people weren't even on that list. That was just a quick search. Some of those countries like Saudi Arabia, they're lower than ours. But I guarantee you ain't no broke low income earning Saudis in America. I guarantee you that. And I guarantee you anybody with an IQ of 90 or lower is probably kicking ass. And I'm going to tell you another story. This is the problem I have with this whole IQ argument. And I just want to dispel it. I'm going to go back and do what I got to do. But I just had to come out here and get that together because I saw, and it's what I'm doing today is splitting up these videos into pieces. I didn't want to make a 6-hour video, but check this out right here. I did some research. I went ahead and did some research on the diversity lottery program for U.S. citizenship. It's a program ran through immigration, the U.S. Department of Immigration, and it pretty much confirms what I thought and my theory is pretty much it's not really stringent when they select people to come to this country, on visas and things like that. Now we do have the H1N, B1, whatever. Those are the scientists and people that are proven and vetted, right? So I will not, argue with that. I won't say that. But one beautiful thing about the lottery, people from Nigeria are exempt from that program, so they can't get in. So I remember Mr. Blackman taking our community back, actually went back and forth with I Am Josephine, and basically ethered her, in my opinion, on that whole, So when it comes to Nigerians, Indians, Dominicans, people from the UK, they are pretty much, they just have to go and apply for a regular visa to get in, right? So chances are when you get that visa that, you're going to go through a more vetted process. But I think Nigeria is the only African nation that applies to. So everyone else from another African nation is ultimately, over here on average, and chances are those people's IQs are much lower than ours. Egypt, things like that. So when I just ran off that list of people that are outperforming African Americans economically with lower or even maybe 2 or 3 points slightly higher, that should not be the case. That shouldn't happen. So the only thing that explains that is that there's not a direct correlation between income or intelligence and where you are in life. I know that sounds counterintuitive or incorrect, but just hear me out. What I mean is, it's not direct, meaning that you can have an IQ of 120, right? Which is not bad, not good. I mean, I ain't gonna say that. No, that's actually pretty good. I'm not gonna say that's bad. That's actually pretty good of an IQ, right? But that doesn't necessarily lock you in for success. That doesn't lock you in. There was a book I had called The Outliers, and in that book I basically outlined an individual who had an IQ that always placed over 200. Every time he took a test, he got over 200 on his IQ test. Brilliant. His life was miserable. Life didn't go the way he wanted it to go, right? Everything went terrible for him. Other people that had high IQs, but they got certain breaks in life. And because they got certain breaks in life, they were able to make it. Now, I'm not one of those people that just say you were lucky in life. I believe in hard work, merit, things of that nature. However, I will say that there's not a direct IQ balance. Like, it's not like, okay, well, black people are where they are simply because of the number 85 on the IQ test that they will get. That explains everything. They're low, they're just not intelligent. They're just not, no, that's bull. I've heard it said that, the way the human body works physiologically, and I'm gonna give you a great example. Let's say you are taking testosterone shots, right? And I actually got on steroids I actually tried it. I was on Anavar for it was just some pills. I was taking them Anavar pills, man, and I just wanted to see what steroids felt like to take it. I took it one time, okay? Shoot me. Took it for, about 6 weeks. And I mean, man, I was strong. I could tell after about 3 weeks, I was getting strong as hell. Like, I'll be in the weight room just pumping, and I just wouldn't feel it. And I could be pumping up way more weight than I usually would pump up, right? And so, interesting thing I read about, and this is why I stopped. They say that one of the side effects in the human body, or one things that happen is when you give your body something supplementally, your body stops making it because it feels like, oh, okay, we don't need it. We have human growth hormone. We don't need it. We have testosterone. We have everything we need. So why would I pump out some more? It has an adverse effect. So if you want to mess up the balance of your life, overly put in, a certain aspect, or also the body, if you don't use something, like for example, if you work the way your muscles work, it's the same way your brain works. I've heard this said by neuroscientists have explained this for hundreds of years. You ever notice they say people with Alzheimer's or something, they say it helps them to do crossword puzzles or to play mind games. It keeps your mind fresh. It keeps your mind quick and agile. Well, if you don't use it, it becomes, I guess, not nimble, but it becomes blunt. Like it just becomes flat. You're not as sharp as you usually are. That is the way intelligence works over time. So if you're poor and you're in a situation where you're not able to obtain certain, you're not really challenged mentally, then you will become, you won't be basically as sharp as you should be. However, that is not the case when it comes to, you're not locked in. And that's the point I'm trying to make. The reason that all of these different individuals can come from all these foreign countries and outperform African Americans, even though in their country on average, then a lot of these people are coming through a lottery system. They're not the brightest. They haven't been tested they haven't taken an IQ test to say, okay, this guy has an IQ of 90 or 75. We're not going to take him. He has an IQ of 75. No way. Right? A lot of those guys come over. In their mind, they see opportunity and they go for it. Now, this is an indictment on us as African Americans because we are without excuse, which is pretty much the crux of my channel. This is what I always say. Black men and black women are without excuse. We should not be where we are. Look, you're going to have to fail your way to success. Low aim is sin. Benjamin Banneker said that, former president of Morehouse and mentor to Martin Luther King. Don't aim low. Not Benjamin Banneker. Benjamin Mays. Lord have mercy. See what happens when you don't use your mind? Anyway, basically, in long story short, what I'm basically getting at is that the human mind is sharp. It is nimble. And if you challenge your mind, if you place your mind in a situation where there was a guy, I can't remember his name. I'm going to find his video. I watched a documentary, Forgotten Geniuses. And it was about a black guy born in Montgomery, right? And when he went to school, he basically was behind all the white students. He couldn't keep up. And what happened was, in time, he was able to keep up because he worked himself into he was a hard worker. He was very diligent. He was very studious. He studied every day. He was a hard worker. See, I'm one of the people that believe this is pretty much what I was explained, the simplistic way I was explained intelligence. It was simply the ability to tell the difference or to notice something, right? Now, when it comes to this gentleman that I'm talking about, his name was Percy something. I have to find it, and I'm gonna put the clip in here.
1939, a chemist at a Midwestern paint company makes a startling discovery, one that could improve the health of millions of people. The company wants him to stick to making paint, but this man has always gone his own way. He was the grandson of Alabama slaves, yet he went on to become one of America's great scientists.
He had to fight to overcome the odds of being a black man in America.
The chemical world was a club, and outsiders were not really all that welcome.
We live, for the most part, in a highly stressed, very competitive environment.
Outside the laboratory, he faced challenges of a different kind.
Once the violence began, Anna and I felt we had no choice but to stay.
My dad was angry when he came home and clearly ready to fight.
For more than a century, we have watched the denial of elemental liberty to millions of black people in our Southland.
He found freedom in the laboratory. His science helped unlock the secret chemistry of plants, a discovery that would help relieve one of the most crippling human diseases and plunge him into one of the fiercest battles in the history of science.
This is one of the towering figures of chemistry in the 20th century, and one of the great African-American scientists of all time.
A brilliant chemist, a volatile personality, a man whose devotion to science would not be denied.
This man was exhibit A of determination and never giving up. Do you state your full name for the record?
My name is Percy Julian. First moment of your life, he told me, but it is also a great responsibility, for you are now beginning to create a family of educated people. And there they were, 3 generations of hope and prayer, weaving to a 4th generation that was going off to college. And why? Because they had the simple faith that the last great hope of the earth is education for all the people.
Julian's destination was DePaul University, a small liberal arts college in Greencastle, Indiana. DePaul had accepted a few black students since the Civil War, but expected them to know their place.
A black student entering a white university, if they did know before they arrived, they found out pretty quickly that they were not welcome in the university or in the community.
Instead of being assigned to a dorm like his white classmates, Julian was shown to an off-campus room with a slop jar for a toilet.
I soon got up enough courage to ask Mrs. Townsend what time we would have dinner, but she tersely informed me that she was not expected to give me my meals.
Julian wandered the streets of Greencastle for a day and a half before finding a diner that would serve a Negro. He would continue to take his meals off campus until he learned of an opening at the Sigma Chi fraternity. In exchange for waiting on his housemates and firing their furnace, Julian could have a room in the basement. He soon felt at ease in the fraternity. The classroom was a different matter.
You sit in your classrooms with kids who read things that you never heard of. They've taken math courses that you haven't taken. And so one of the academic challenges is trying to hold on until you can catch up.
For 2 years, Julian would take remedial classes at a local high school in addition to his normal course load.
I remember writing to my father. I know you and Mother have always known what was best for me, but I think you made a mistake by sending me to compete with these white students. They are so brilliant that I am always hopelessly behind.
But by his sophomore year, Julian was gaining fast on his white classmates, thanks in part to the encouragement of chemistry professor William Blanchard. Blanchard had what one student called a contagious enthusiasm for discovering the unknown. Under his tutelage, Julian began to dream of a career as a research chemist. Only one African American had ever earned a doctorate in chemistry. His name was St. Elmo Brady. Julian decided that if Brady could do it, so could he. After 4 years, he graduated Phi Beta Kappa and first in his class.
At commencement time, my great-grandmother bared her shoulders and she showed me, for the first time, the deep scars that had remained from a beating she had received when one day during the waning days of the Civil War, she went through the Negro quarters and cried out, "Get yourselves ready, children. The Yankees are coming. The Lord has heard our prayers." And then, proudly, she took my Phi Beta Kappa key in her hand, and she said, "This is worth all the scars."
But Percy ultimately was just this guy who just worked hard, worked himself in a frenzy, and he liked it. He was into it. He got into what he liked, and he worked hard. And he went after something. His parents pushed him. Now his parents were, illiterate. They weren't the brightest. His dad, mom, but they pushed him, and he excelled. And he challenged, and he actually rose to the occasion. I'm gonna give you a great example. When I was in school, right, I was a C student. I was, but I would date like smart girls. I would always date like smart. They were pretty, most attractive girls, but those were the girls that were pretty. Everyone liked them, but they wasn't putting out. Those, those types. Smart, pretty. A lot of guys like them, but they ain't fucking. So, but I would always date these girls. So I wasn't getting a lot of sex in school, just to keep it real, right? But I would date these girls. And what I found was I could keep up with them. We would have discussions about the lesson, about what we were doing. They just had good study habits. 9 times out of 10, I remember when I was at Tuskegee, I had a a roommate. He was an alpha. Guy named James. I ain't gonna say his last name. Cool brother. Right? But James studied. James took his education like I took basketball. I would go to the gym, even when I was at Tuskegee, we would get up, go run the steps, we would shoot 300-400 jumpers, write down how many we made. We would do left hand drills, right hand drills, everything. We would do all that, run suicides. Then we would go to the weight room, do squat rack, bench press. You know, that's what I would do. Then I go get in the sauna or the pool and sit there and try to relax my muscles. That's what I would do. And I would do that every 4 or 5 days a week, every week. It was a habit. I loved it, right? I didn't have a lot of body fat. Probably why I don't have a lot of body fat now, because I trained my body in such a way to where it's not my body. I told my body, this is what I want you to do. And every time I see myself gaining weight, it's a habit. It's easy for me to go and get into that mold again of working hard in the gym, running on the treadmill for 30 minutes, hitting the weights, bouncing around in the basketball gym and then, doing whatever. And that's how James was. And me and James got in a discussion one day, and he told me, he said, man, the reason I have a 4.0 is because I have great study habits. Man, I don't understand half the stuff. He was an electrical engineering major at Tuskegee. So he wasn't in some easy. And let me tell you something, that's not easy at Tuskegee. I know y'all think, these kids coming up out of these engineering degrees, those are very highly sought after students when they graduate. Like Tuskegee's engineering department, aerospace engineering, mechanical, chemical. If you have a child and you want to send them somewhere, I would advise Tuskegee. Tuskegee is a hell of a school. Even the computer science department. Now, they're a bit antiquated in what they're teaching, but damn it, you're going to be able to run circles intellectually around students, or you at least be able to hold your own with the students from Georgia Tech. You will. I'm speaking from experience. I went to 3 or 4 different colleges. Tuskegee was the best. But the point I'm trying to... But Percy ultimately was just this guy who just worked hard, worked himself in a frenzy, and he liked it. He was into it. He got into what he liked, and he worked hard. And he went after something. His parents pushed him. Now, his parents were, illiterate. They weren't the brightest. His dad, mom, but they pushed him, and he excelled. And he challenged, and he actually rose to the occasion. I'm gonna give you a great example. When I was in school, right? I was a C student. I was, but I would date like smart girls. I would always date like smart. They were pretty, most attractive girls, but those were the girls that were pretty. Everyone liked them, but they wasn't putting out. Those, those types. Smart, pretty. A lot of guys like them, but they ain't fucking. So, but I would always date these girls. So I wasn't getting a lot of sex in school, just to keep it real, right? But I would date these girls. And what I found was I could keep up with them. We would have discussions about the lesson, about what we were doing. They just had good study habits. 9 times out of 10, I remember when I was at Tuskegee, I had a roommate. He was an alpha. Guy named James. I ain't gonna say his last name. Cool brother. Right? But James studied. James took his education like I took basketball. I would go to the gym, even when I was at Tuskegee, we would get up, go run the steps, we would shoot 300-400 jumpers, write down how many we made. We would do left hand drills, right hand drills, everything. We would do all that, run suicides. Then we would go to the weight room, do squat rack, bench press. That's what I would do. Then I go get in the sauna or the pool and sit there and try to relax my muscles. That's what I would do. And I would do that every 4 or 5 days a week, every week. It was a habit. I loved it, right? I didn't have a lot of body fat. Probably why I don't have a lot of body fat now, because I trained my body in such a way to where it's not my body. I told my body, this is what I want you to do. And every time I see myself gaining weight, it's a habit. It's easy for me to go and get into that mold again of working hard in the gym, running on the treadmill for 30 minutes, hitting the weights, bouncing around in the basketball gym and then, doing whatever. And that's how James was. And me and James got in a discussion one day, and he told me, he said, man, the reason I have a 4.0 is because I have great study habits. Man, I don't understand half the stuff. He was an electrical engineering major at Tuskegee. So he wasn't in some easy. And let me tell you something, that's not easy at Tuskegee. I know y'all think, you know, these kids coming up out of these engineering degree, those are very highly sought after students when they graduate. Like Tuskegee's engineering department, aerospace engineering, mechanical, chemical. If you have a child and you want to send them somewhere, I would advise Tuskegee. Tuskegee is a hell of a school. Even the computer science department. Now, they're a bit antiquated in what they're teaching, but damn it, you're going to be able to run circles intellectually around students, or you at least be able to hold your own with the students from Georgia Tech. You will. I'm speaking from experience. I went to 3 or 4 different colleges. Tuskegee was the best. But the point I'm trying to make is, look, study habits and things like that are important, and that is why they say you lose what you don't, you lose what you don't use. And so the point I'm trying to make about black people is we're not necessarily challenged intellectually. We aren't. Most black people, let's be honest, let's look at why they say the average black IQ is lower. What do we do during the day? Listen to our music. Even the music, I will say this, man. The music, right? In order to be back in the day, if you were born in the 40s and 50s, if you wanted to get into music, you wanted, jazz was the thing, you know, back then in the 40s and 30s and back. So you had to learn how to play an instrument. It has been scientifically proven that it literally raises a child's IQ. You give them instruments less. That's why they say music is important, right? Children that take music lessons wind up having distinctively higher IQs. You know, people that they call savants for music, you know, or not. I'm not just talking about the people that have autism, but I'm talking about people that are really good at a particular skill. They're gifted. A lot of times, those kids, and I think there was an experiment with some Japanese children where they put, when they were in the womb, the mothers played classical music. When they were 2, 1, they gave them instruments and let them play with them. And by the time they were 10 years old, they could play on an expert level. In their brain, certain aspects of their brain are much more developed than the average person who didn't do all that and tried to take on that skill at a later age in life. That means that your brain can do shit that these scientists and these white supremacist scientists it's uncharted what we could do. Don't let anyone limit you in your ability and skills. Don't let anyone doubt you in what you can do. You are an amazing piece of machinery. You know, I look at us as machines. The greatest invention in the universe, the human mind. It's powerful. It's very powerful. I think we don't value what we have. Let's look at all the animals out here. Let's look at what they can do. You know, eagles can fly, birds can breathe underwater, and you know, we imagine we can, and we with our minds can do everything they can do. With just the power of the human mind, it's a powerful gift that God gave us. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is, if you use and challenge your mind, when I dated those more intelligent girls, I remember I did this, man, and I hated I did this. I actually when I was in the 7th grade, right? I'm a C student, right? We had a Scholars Bowl. There was like this Scholars thing, right? So I actually, my teacher, my associate social studies and history teacher would have a Scholars Bowl competition for all the 7th graders, right? And I liked history, and she was actually that semester she was teaching like old history. I like history before, you know, World War II, before the 1800s on back. I don't know. I just like that type of history, right? And when I got to college, I took 5 or 6 different histories as electives. I love history, right? Like I would sit there and watch a documentary all day. I love it, right? Anyway, they decided to have this competition. And I won for my class. You know, I was 2nd, 3rd period, whatever. I was late, like 6th period or whatever. So they finally took all the best from all the classes. It's like 2 or 3 people per class, right? And I got in that bowl, and they had it after school one day. And I was going, and I was actually winning. And I got all the way to like the top 3. And I'm gonna tell you why I'm ashamed of this, because I'm gonna tell you what I did. people, like the students, the teacher, well, she was a real cool teacher. What she did was she had a wager, because a lot of kids started showing up, right? She had a wager, and kids would get like extra credit, 20, 30 points extra credit, and you would have to wager before. Well, I had like 5 or 6 different people that knew me that got behind me, and I was like, all right, y'all gonna lose, you know, but they got behind me after once I won in my class, right? And so I literally got to the top. I mean, we still got like, I think like 10 points extra, something crazy like that, but I literally disqualified myself on purpose. And I never forget the question, which no one knew what it was, but now it seems rudimentary, but it's called an obelisk, right? And they asked what it was. It was the edifice, and what did it represent? And they talked about it representing the phallus of Osiris, and you know, so I knew what it was. I knew the whole time it was obelisk, but I said I don't know, and I got out. And then they finally came, oh, it was obelisk, and I knew the whole time. I just got out because I was afraid of literally going and representing for the whole school. I actually got scared. As a kid, yeah, I just didn't have any, it's not that I didn't have any confidence. I didn't want people, and I will admit this, I didn't want people to think of me as a nerd. Back then, I know. That's why I'm ashamed of that shit. Because I don't know what could I have done had I went to the, because the question, I would have probably won. The girl that won was the usual A student type. Everybody expected her to win. But when she won, she went and came in like, I think she like placed and went for the state or some shit on a Scholars Bowl. And I was like, damn. You know, but she bust her ass. She was a hard-working student. She was an Air Force student. I'm just a basketball player. I was just some little quote-unquote dumb jock. But people looked at me different after that. People were like, damn, I was surprised you got to the top 3, because the next day in school, they actually announced it on the intercom. Everybody was shocked in the first period, because a lot of people didn't know that I was actually, capable of doing it. And they named off the top 3, and they said my name, and everybody looked at me. Wait, what? You know, because a lot of people weren't there, and they're like, yeah, man, he pretty smart. He did this, he did. And so everybody was like, damn. And then a lot of the students, a lot of the teachers from that point on were like, would always say, well, I mean, look at you. You coming in at the top 3 in the Scholars Bowl. So I know you can do it, but you're lazy. You don't do your homework. And that's the point I'm trying to make is this, man, with this story. If you apply yourself, it really doesn't make a difference. Those people come to America with distinctively lower IQs based on the lottery system. And they still outperform African Americans with almost 20 points higher IQs. So what's the point? What is the point? And that right there disproves or dispels. And I know people are like, look, you're not going to just luck your way into a higher income. You're not going to just luck your way into $60,000, $70,000 a year. You're just not. I'm sorry. You're going to have to come in with some sort of talent, skill, or intellectual ability. So this whole myth that black people are where they are just because of IQ is bullshit. Thank you. Have a good night.
Let me add this. I have a subscriber. Shout out to Willie Martin, man. Thanks for the information. I'm just going to read you what the brother sent me. He congratulated me on the line of credit that I got. He said, I will find this interesting. He said he went down a rabbit hole due to an old video of some racist views back in the 60s. And he said the lady mentioned a book called Breeding Down. And I looked up the author, he said, and a long story short, he was part of a group that partially financed the studies for the bell curve, which so much for biases. He said, anyway, the author died in the 1970s, but his organization is still around. It's called Mankind Quarterly. It's headed by another scientist who wrote an interesting paper in the mid-2000s. And what do you know? There can be a big jump in IQs. So, he said they don't know the underlying cause, but they're thinking social and educational changes. And then he talked about the Flynn effect. And he said, basically the Flynn effect is basically basically they found that IQs have risen over the last 100 years. It says the only published study about the Flynn effect in a less developed country that we are aware of is a longitudinal study of rural children in Kenya. This study found IQ gains of 11.2 or 26.3 points over a 14-year period, depending on the method of computation. IQ gains of this magnitude might be an isolated finding. However, if they were to present a widespread trend in the less developed countries, the inevitable consequences would be a narrowing of the uncomfortably large IQ gap between more developed and less developed nations of the world, to the extent that intelligence is not only a consequence but also a cause of social and economic progress. Such a trend could eventually lead to narrowing of the economic gap between the rich and poor nations as well. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. I greatly appreciate this, man. Shout out to the brother again. His name's Willie Martin. Thank you.